unlimited access right across the VAFA Women's competition.
Billy Fraser-Smith, have your moment. Gets it again. Fraser-Smith, there's two.
Sheehan picks it up. Can she kick a goal? She snapped it from the boundary.
All thanks to MECWACARE, a proud partner of the VAFA.
Gets around one, handball over to Joyce. She'll snap again. It's going to go through.
Trying to get her hands over it. Got a little bit of a runner on it. Can it get a boot? Does. How do you do?
Welcome to Inside the Boundary.
Oh, my Lord.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Boundary, the official podcast of the AMO's women's competition. And we're here all thanks to MECWACARE. Joey Pignataro is my name. Looking forward to William Buck Premier Women's finals starting. We've had a couple of premiers already through the divisions on the weekend, as well as Premier B. Jason Bennett is here with me again after a couple of weeks off. Hello, Jace.
Hello, Joey. How are you? It's a great time of the year, isn't it?
Oh, I can't wait for this A-grade final series for the women's. And Dean Anderson is going to join us on the phone to preview the Old Scotch St Kevin's game. Tommy Purcell spoke to us a couple of weeks ago. Paddy Grindlay's also here. Hello, Patrick.
Joey, good to be on Inside the Boundary again. Didn't make it last time, I'm afraid, but it's lovely to be here and lovely to have a very special guest as well for the entirety of the podcast.
Well, you can tell us about who the guest is in a moment. I just want to say condolences to Fitzroy. Lost to Old Geelong in the Premier B Grand Final. It's a shame.
Did you get any messages in the Instagram across the
weekend? Just from Old Geelong fans who are very excited that they claimed a women's premiership, which is awesome for the footy club.
I did mention this earlier in the week, and for the love of the game, is that it's been a great season for Old Geelong men and women's campaign. They were all there as well, like the Premier B men's team that are going to be playing finals as well, and the environment, they're just about blowing the roof off of Como Park. So really happy for them, and big congratulations to everyone involved.
Now, it's fair to say that the three of us have never played women's footy. We never will play women's footy, and we can't analyse it, as well as the very special guest that we have got on the podcast this week, who is a Big V representative, who is becoming the face of Channel 7's women's coverage, Jace. She's going past you at a rate of knots.
Oh, that's
with
not
her
hard.
own
That's
show,
not hard to do.
Talking W. And she also plays for Caulfield, which is just simply awesome in our competition. It's Kate McCarthy. Hello, K-Mac.
Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you for that lovely introduction, Joey. It's great to be here. Great to be talking about Premier Women's Football on the VAFA podcast. And, yeah, it's been a really good season of VAFA Women's Footy.
First of all, Kate, how's the wrist injury that if people have watched you over the last week or so on any platform that you're on, you've got a nice black cast that's covering the right wrist?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a struggle, I won't lie. Not having a right hand, so I can't write any notes. I've been taking my iPad everywhere to type things around. But, yeah, bit of an unfortunate time to have to get surgery, which will rule me out for the rest of the season of VAFA football. But this black cast is a lot better than the hard cast that I had on post-surgery, which allowed me to do absolutely nothing. So it's great.
The great news for your team, K-Mac, is that they're into the finals after the weekend. They did what they had to do in the final round.
Yeah, they've been building really, really nicely through the whole season. I think the first part of the season, starting to learn what our game plan was, new coach, obviously, and just, working really hard at that game plan. And then I think we've started to see it come to fruition in the last few weeks, obviously with some very good wins building in nicely to finals action this week. But, yeah, I'm just really proud of the group, and it's such a great bunch of girls down there at Caulfield, and they've improved so much as the season's gone on, and I just really hope that they can put together a really nice performance this weekend. Whether they win, whether they lose, they've had a fantastic season, obviously hoping for the win, but they should be extremely proud of themselves for the season that they've put together.
It was an elimination final, really, effectively on the weekend between Caulfield Grammarians and West Brunswick. The winner of that would get through and take that fourth spot. Kate's just mentioned things from a Caulfield perspective. I had the chance to have a chat with Marnie Silver, the coach of West Brunswick, yesterday. And great news, Marnie is going to be special comments analysing for us this weekend on both the Premier Women's semi-finals, which is absolutely fantastic. They were gutted with the performance from the Magpies on the weekend, obviously very disappointed, but full credit to Caulfield, who were just too good on the day.
Marnie was actually at my first ever game of AFL football up on the Gold Coast, playing for Coolangatta Tweed. So them and I were great teammates through my first few years of football up on the Gold Coast. So Marnie is an incredible coach as well. Just has a real love for the game, a real love for the players down there at West Brunswick as well. And you can just see how much they've grown that football program down there at Brunswick. And, yeah, just a great advocate for the game. So I think they're going to offer a really nice insight on the coverage.
What's Marnie like as a footballer, Kate? We got an idea what they're like as a coach, and we're finding out what they're like as a special comments person. But how about with the footy in hand?
Oh, brilliant. Used to play down the back, so sort of half back line or full back at times, even though they're undersized, and unfortunately suffered with a number of injuries. And that was how they actually got into coaching. Came down to Melbourne and then ended up, unfortunately, doing another ACL and just couldn't get back to it mentally. I know physically it's a huge challenge, and mentally it's even harder after you've done not one but two ACL injuries. And then was approached by the club and asked if they wanted to go into more of coaching. And Marnie said themselves that they didn't think they were ready to do it. But it's clear that the group just absolutely loves Marnie and what they have to offer. And the rest is history. They've been a great coach ever since then.
So top four now. We've hit the finals in William Buck Premier Women's this week. It's the first semi-final, a cutthroat final between Kew and Caulfield Grammarians. Then the second semi-final with a winner to go straight through to the grand final between Old Scotch and St Kevin's, the top two teams in the competition, the Cardinals winning the minor premiership. Now, special guest joining us today is Old Scotch coach Dean Anderson.
Well, as we just mentioned, the Old Scotch girls have finished on top of the ladder, the minor premiers in William Buck Premier Women's, and the coach is the great Dean Anderson, who's been good enough to join us on Inside the Boundary. Hello, Dean.
Good morning.
How are you feeling ahead of a massive finals campaign coming up in a few days' time, Dean?
How am I feeling? Well, it's been a long season, so the last couple of weeks, it's nice to be able to get the point and to particularly get this weekend where it was the result didn't really matter, but we just wanted to get a reasonable game in and get through relatively unscathed, which we did that. Yeah, no, it's good. I'm really at this time of year, and I'm particularly pleased that we had all the wind over the last few days. Hopefully it's all passed.
Dean, how are you feeling heading into the final that's up on the weekend? How's the list? So you've got a relatively healthy list, I believe, at the moment. All troops available for the game on the weekend?
Mostly, yeah, Kate. So we've got one away. But yeah, no, you know what? It's healthy. So to answer the question, yeah, it's healthy. And we train Monday, Wednesday, so we had a training session last night. And yeah, we're keen. The players are keen to get on with it. So as I said, it's a long season, so it's good to get to this point.
Dean, the benefit of playing St Kevin's only a couple of weeks ago, that you've had that close look at them, what did you really learn out of that game? Obviously a key result with the win, which is the first loss they've suffered all season. What do you know about that team, and how do you expect the game to play out? What kind of football are you expecting from them?
Yeah, well, I think we might have poked the bear, to be honest.
I hope not for your sake.
Yeah, I know. You know what? We obviously have high respect for them. They've just been successful for so long, and the group's stayed, and they've got loyalty within their group, and they're really physically competitive, and they've got class as well. Like, what did I learn? I mean, I just know that they've got 4 ins from that game that are all quality. So, yeah, look, I'm not getting too carried by that game. It was just good to be able to compete with them, to be honest. And I think in the last quarter, we had to really work hard into a breeze to be competitive and support their forward efforts, and which we did quite well. So the girls, my team, the players, they're structured. So I'm really proud of them, the way they go their business, and they're competitive and they want success. They crave success. So it was a good encounter, but I'm not getting carried away.
That last quarter was fantastic to watch, Dean, and as you said, your team really dug in that last term and came away with the win. What's that done for the confidence and the belief of the group?
I think the group, this is the thing. Right? We played St Kevin's in a final last year, and we thought we were at the level, but we were massacred, really. We only lost by 5 goals on the scoreboard, just couldn't get going. But we've improved significantly this year in a number of areas, which has helped with the belief. Kevin's have improved as well, right? So we've got better, but we've got better, and I think our group feels now, we've played them a few times, that we bring our best game and we push them. So I mean, that's the thing. We've got real belief. So I'll take some confidence out of that.
And when you talk about improvements since that last time, so the result was a 31-point defeat. Whereabouts on the ground? Because I've got to see McCarthy play in the Big V game. Like, she's a superstar, has been on that list since that game. But what have you added, I suppose, around your core from that game this time around in finals?
I think our 20, well, what was it now? It was 22, wasn't it? I think across the board, our team is stronger.
Yep. Yeah,
we're just bringing a stronger physical effort to the contest. We were just intimidated last year, and we just lost our way through the game. And you'll love this one. How many players were a little bit, I can't remember what word I used, but it was a lot of ones of frightened.
Yeah, right.
At half. And, the great thing about girls is they're honest, right? And half, it wasn't frightened, it was another word, intimidated, or something like that. There was just there was a feeling in the group that we couldn't match it with next year. So we've actually, and we rushed. It was our first year in Premier A. And we really outperformed. I mean, we've seen in history how hard it is to get to Premier A and be really competitive in Premier A. We've seen it sides that have come up over the last few years. It's a big step forward, and we just weren't quite ready physically to be able to go the likes of a St Kevin's. So it was a good learning. Yeah, the answer to the question is we've been able to build a team that's, and confidence in that team that they can compete.
And Jordan Mifsud, who you've added to the group since VFLW has concluded from Port Melbourne, she, I can imagine, would be a huge addition to the team, and just giving you another big-bodied midfielder really up against St Kevin's, where you need to match them sort of in that area.
Yeah, no, Geordie's wonderful for us. In fact, Geordie, she's played sprinkles of games since I've been there, the third year, so she's just never qualified before. So I think the thing that Geordie's just so keen to have team success because she hasn't had any, and we've got to like that. So she's really, really important for us. They've certainly got the competitiveness that we need to breed within the group. So that's a really good in for us.
Dean, your women's program at Old Scotch, not to the same level of St Kevin's, who are the three-time back-to-back premiers when it comes to William Buck Premier, but you have won two women's premierships in 2019 and 2022. You're on top of the table in 2021, unfortunately, when the season was abandoned, and last year was your first final series in William Buck Premier Women's. There's a nice piece of history that is an opportunity in front of the girls. Do you talk about that leading into this year's final series, or do you just leave the past in the past?
Oh, I think I don't talk about it, no, but there's an awareness of the success and the history of the group. When I went there, when I first turned up 2 years ago, we needed a reserves team in Premier B. Forfeited, I reckon we forfeited half the games. Some games, a lot of games we had girls playing multiple games. It was really hard work. So, there's an element, and a lot of those players have stayed, and so that's sort of the biggest priority I push within the group is that we get players to play, get to milestones, 50 games. We haven't got any 100-game players yet, so it's a building group, but we're getting masses who are doing over 50 games now. So that group's aware, that group of players who are still, a lot are now playing reserves, but they're just aware of the contribution they've made to the group and how hard it's been to where we are. So I really like that within our club in terms of the culture, and we're like those players who are playing reserves have been around a long time are really in my relationships at the club because they've contributed so much to where we are today. That's probably the thing that permeates the most through relationships with the group.
Touched on your captain, Mia Caffrey, a little bit earlier, but I remember one training session at VAFA for the Big V we had, and she was unable to make it because she told Grovesy, the captain, that she couldn't go to training because she was concerned that she needed to be at your training at Old Scotch because she didn't want to let the team down because you guys were heading into finals, and felt that she, as the captain of the club, needed to be at all the training sessions leading into it. What sort of a person is she around the group? I can imagine someone with that sort of leadership is just invaluable to have on the field out there each week.
Yeah, no, she we're these clubs, Kate, and it's probably similar through Quad, I'd imagine, but like at that time, we didn't have enough players to pick two teams, so our reserves went through a really difficult 3 weeks. It's because all of our players, not all of them, can't go to Europe. So we have this period.
Yep.
So I was one of those ones this year who said, "Can we please have a 2-week break in the middle of the year because that's a nightmare trying to get two teams up." So our reserves fell in a hole for a few weeks, and that would have been around that time, Kate. So she's actually, she reads the tea leaves. We had to try and just hold the group together for a couple of weeks and get through. And I think through that period, game against Q at Scotch College, our only game there for the year, it was 2 goals to 2 points. That was it was 4 scoring shots for the whole game. But it was probably our best win for the year. We just didn't have any players. But certainly Mia's just so committed to our program like no other. So she's always, generally first at training. She was there last night with me at 9:30. She's just invested. So she's just so good to have. She's a great player for us as well. She's just so competitive. Yeah. So Kate, she's I'm glad. I'm glad that we've got her.
Well, this weekend, KTV, Sunday, Elstonwick Park, second semi-final, Old Scotch versus St Kevin's. You can watch it live on Community TV. Dean, where do you win it? Where do you beat them?
Oh, do I want to give secrets? I know Tom will listen to this.
Tommy will definitely be listening. All right, let me reframe. Let me reframe.
Say whatever you want. Throw a few spanners in the works.
Let me reframe the question then. What are they very good at, and what have you got to take away from them?
What are they? They're very. Okay, this is good. Well, you got a hint from my earlier answer. Like they bring real physical sense. They're very they're real class, right? So at the top end, they've got some very, very good players. The thing is, they've got a lot of good players. So it's like, what do we do? How do we do it? So they'll be looking at us as well from that perspective too. I don't know. Longer quarters in finals.
Yeah.
So the sort of a little bit of few of my answers, but longer quarters might be something. I think we still know we've got our work cut out. We need to be best. It's funny, like the players call it a spray. When I'm firm, they call it a spray. And a couple of years ago when we're in Premier B, we finished 4th in Premier B. We hadn't beaten a finalist all year, so we lost 6 games and lost to all the other 3 finalists in those 6 games. And anyway, in this preliminary final, and then ultimately we won all 3, which was amazing. But I gave the girls were really battling at half against Old Brighton in a prelim, and I pulled out one of my more halftime addresses just around competitiveness, attack at the ball, that sort of stuff. And then in the grand final next week, they're coming after me going, "Oh, can you give us a spray this week? It was really good."
It's not often you have players asking for it.
I don't. So I was. We sort of battled through. Collegians played really well last week, and we battled through. It was quite even till half time, and so I was firm last week, and I just said after the game, please don't put me in a position where I need to be firm next week. So hopefully they can go out and actually deliver. So I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to it.
That answers your question.
We're looking forward to it. Oh, go on, Dean.
Yeah, it's good. I think the good thing is that we should be competitive. Like last year was really just disappointing that we couldn't come to St Kevin's. So we just want to compete and put on a good show. Try and open the game up a bit and get some flow. That was nice in terms of respect, watching the game. It's interesting. I think the 2 teams have had a lot of dominant wins, and Q and Caulfield have done the same. There's a bit of a gap competition. It's interesting that we can kick, points one week and then maybe kick 2 goals the next, because when it tightens up, it really tightens up, and there's not that. We don't get enough experience at being able to deal with the more contested, more congested footy. So it'd be a good opportunity to get another go at that. It's good that we had that a couple of weeks ago against St Kevin's. So that'll be good.
Well, we're very much looking forward to this game on Sunday, and it might well be, Jace, a precursor to the grand final in a couple of weeks' time, although Q and Caulfield might have something to say about that. Dean, good luck on Sunday against St Kevin's, and thanks for joining us on Inside the Boundary.
Oh, thank you.
Great to spend some time with Dean Anderson. Looking forward to that game too, Jace.
It'll be a fantastic game.
Sunday. K-Mac, as Jace mentioned before, we said g'day to Dean. Q and Caulfield is the other final. This is the knockout final. I'm also told this is the last time you graced the footy field in 2024. It was a 1-point win for Caulfield 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It was a fantastic game, actually, a very hotly contested game at Q down there, and very close as well. I think it's very, very competitive in and around the contest, which I think will only get better in a finals match. But yeah, we fought really hard, ended up getting the win by 1 point and some very professional game management at the end.
Well, speaking of professional, I think we saw one of the great celebrations from Kate McCarthy in that game. We brought out the ray gun, but also points of the year. Giving Nick Nananui a bit to rival with from about 2014 through the middle of the ground after a 50. McCarthy blazing through 50, 2 bounces and missing to the right-hand side. But you
missed the candy that I sold,
yeah,
but that's all right,
That's
Paddy.
all right.
We'll give you that.
That's okay. You sent through the notes earlier, but must have misread it when I mentioned that. Apologies. But yeah, look, just something on this unit, because watching this game back on replay, you guys seem so well connected, especially up forward. Your system seemed really solid, but how does this, I suppose, team structure and all those kind of minutiae of coaching, how's the adjustment for you being an AFLW player, being involved in coaching in AFLW programs, playing in VFLW, and then coming back to Amos?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing down at Caulfield is, sorry, my dog's barking in the background, is just really the team game that we play down there. So our ability to, everyone contributes. So some weeks you'll see Sarah Canny kicking 2 or 3 goals. Other weeks you'll see she hasn't kicked a goal, but we haven't needed her to. So I think we just have such a big range of players that can do a whole lot of different things. And even in that first game, we lost, in that last game against Q, we lost one of our best inside midfielders, Ellie Cleland, to a hand injury really early in the game. So we ended up having to throw a number of players that hadn't played through the inside midfield before through that role. And everyone that went in just absolutely thrived, gave us a few different looks during the game. And everyone's just so willing to put their hand up and have a crack. And Charlie Anderson actually had the job on Dakota Villa down there a few times and got really, really down on herself after Dakota had kicked a couple of goals. And I think just needed to understand that sometimes in footy you can be in the best position as a defender and the ball just somehow goes to your forward. And it's actually by no fault of your own. And you've tried to read the ball better and the ball's gone absolutely nowhere where anyone on the field expected to. And your forwards just popped up and kicked a goal, and sort of had a chat to her during the game. And she said how disappointed she was and how bad she was playing. And we were all saying how she was one of our best players on the ground, because if that ball doesn't land in her lap, we're going the other way and we're rebounding off and going inside 50. So I think for players that are new to the game, it's really hard to understand that sometimes even if your direct opponent has an impact, it doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing. It can mean that things just sometimes work out that way in footy, or sometimes, and Dakota is a fantastic footballer, they're going to your opponent's going to kick a goal at some point if they're very, very good at what they do, or if the ball comes in well for them. So I think that understanding and that growth has been incredible through the group at Caulfield this year, and just working out that sometimes things don't fall your way, but that doesn't mean the game needs to go that way as well. You can wrestle back momentum during the game, and that's something that I've been super proud of that group being able to do. We even played St Kevin's a few weeks prior to that in torrential rain, and the first 2 quarters, really, we were absolutely dominated. St Kevin's put a number of goals on the board and it was looking like it could be a pretty tough game. And the whole second half, I think we ended up winning, and we really fought back in that game. And as a player, it's really hard in those moments to work out how to wrestle back momentum. But somehow that group at Caulfield, we've really learnt how to do that and score goals on the best team, arguably, in the competition for the last couple of years. So, yeah, it's been a very, very impressive season from a young group that have played mature football.
17 scoring shots against West Brunswick on the weekend was an impressive result. When you look at the 2 teams, Caulfield and Kew, across the course of the season, K-Mac, Caulfield have kicked about 11 goals more for the season. Kew's defence is about 30 goals better than Caulfield. So is the game going to be won and lost at Caulfield's forward 50 end of the ground, whether or not you can find a way through Q's outstanding defence?
Yeah, they set up really well behind the ball. So if they get the ball inside their forward 50 or their forward half, they're defenders, and they often, against us, they didn't play a +1, but our forwards tried to get up the ground a little bit too much. So that just played into their hand. If we kicked long and high, it was just going to be an intercept mark with a rebound. So I think we worked that out in the second half to move the ball offline a little bit and try and get around that defence rather than trying to go over it. But our forwards looked really good the last time we played Q. So I think if we're able to get forward to move the ball well, and then also use sort of the term, the classic term that everyone loves in footy at the moment, the lowering of the eyes, to hit up a forward on a lead, or just using the width, using the wingers a little bit more. We have some elite wingers at Caulfield. So I think that's our preferred passage to goal. But Q are exceptionally good, especially in the air. They're marking around the ground in all lines, defensive and forward and midfield too. They can just take some extreme grabs, and that's not just their tall players, that's their smalls as well. So aerially, I think they'll probably be dominant. So Caulfield are going to have to try and compete as much as they can, bring the ball to ground and then win through that way.
Just before we have a look at Old Scotch and St Kevin's from our point of view, Caulfield have been able to keep Q to 41 and 40 points in both
times.
of those
That's right.
games. K-Mac, the last 5 weeks, from a winning perspective, you've put sides to the sword by 50-plus points. Q are similar in terms of the most recent form line. Obviously, the close game is the one they played against one another. Do you feel like you've got enough scoring power off the back of even just that answer there that you can kick a winning score for the second time against them in 4 weeks?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going confident with the ability to kick goals and to go forward. And we've got a lot of pressure forward. So once we get the ball in, try and lock it in and keep it there for as long as we can until it comes out with a score. But Sarah Kenny, who I mentioned before, she's in fantastic goal-kicking form, but another player that's come through had a little bit of a quad complaint earlier in the season, Kylie Lynch. She has been absolutely phenomenal the last few weeks, and she just one-on-one in a contest can take a mark, but even better, can finish from sort of 40, 45 out with a beautiful drop punt. She kicked one against Q when we played them there, and she just has one of the nicest set shot at goal that I've seen in a long time. And then Sarah Kenny's kind of the opposite to that. She'll be front and center and just snap the ball over her shoulder, and everyone will think, wow, you just burnt 3 teammates, and then you look and it's gone through the goals. So she absolutely just pops up out of nowhere and kicks some of the most phenomenal goals I've seen in a long time. So 2 very exciting forwards, but the rest of the forward line also does their piece, contributes really well, whether it's hitting the scoreboard or just keeping that ball inside forward 50 or putting pressure on the defence from the other team.
And let's quickly get your thoughts, K-Mac, on the qualifying final, or the spot to get into the grand final. We've just heard from Dean Anderson a couple of weeks ago. Tommy Purcell joined us. St Kevin's, who are looking for their 4th straight William Buck Premier Women's title. They were the front runners in 2021 as well before the season was abandoned. They got players like Kate Stanton, Bree Doyle, Jess Joyce, Zara Gus, Sarah Cameron, Sarah Betts in the ruck. Then you look at the Q side of things. The Old Scotch side of things, and you got Mia Caffrey, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on, Jade Wise as part of that team, Amelie Fraser-Smith, who has kicked 5 or 6 goals in their last finals campaign where they won the flag, and then you've got Jordan Mifsud as K-Mac, you already referenced in that chat with Dean.
Yeah, it's just going to be a fantastic game.
Who wins?
Oh, I think what Dean said, they poked the bear. I think that's going to be really tough, because I think you had the opportunity to get St Kevin's when they were maybe a little bit vulnerable, and I think they got them then. So I think the prep that will go into this game will be meticulous from St Kevin's, knowing that they got the win over them last time. So I think it makes it an even more competitive game. But in saying that, Scotch obviously worked out what worked last time. It's just going to be a hugely contested game, I think, because the pressure is going to be so high. I mean, you want to win your way into a grand final, and what better way to do it than a 1v2 and making sure that you sort of assert yourself as that dominant force going into the grand final. But I think if you get beaten by what you know from St Kevin's, then you're going to get beaten well. I think the players that you mentioned, they've got just such depth through the midfield, but then Kate Stanton, who can roll through the midfield, but also makes you pay on the scoreboard, as well as Sarah Cameron, a really good goal kicker. Underrated player, I think, for them is Jess Joyce. Played in the Big V team with her, and she's just so composed, knows her structures really well, and can really just sort of see the game before it actually happens and gets herself into some incredible positions. And then Bree Doyle as well, who was the Big V captain. She just gets the team on her back if they need anything. Just at any point you watch her through stoppage and just absolutely burst through, just a bull at the contest. So, and then on the other hand, you've got some really talented footballers from Old Scotch that are very skillful. Mia Caffrey, just an elite person, an elite football player, and very impressive to watch around the place. And Jordan Misford, I think she'll offer, obviously, as I said in that interview, just a big body for them through the mids to sort of be able to match it with Bree Doyle. So I think if I had to give a tip, it would be head versus heart. I'm going to go Old Scotch by 4, but I absolutely would not be surprised if I'm sitting here saying that St Kevin's won, but I wouldn't rule whoever loses that game out of contention at all.
Form line suggests, Jace, that St Kevin's lose this game, win the prelim convincingly, and then win the grand final.
That's your thought?
Yep.
I'm the other way. I think St Kevin's, as you mentioned, they get them at a really good time a few weeks ago. We see it so often in all competitions in Australian football where a team gets beaten by their opponent. They come back in finals. They've done the research. They know how to combat them. I think this is what's going to happen. So St Kevin's for me.
Looking forward to these games playing out this weekend. We must give congratulations now, Jace, from Premier B down. Starting with Old Geelong, who knocked off Paddy's Fitzroy Women's on the weekend, 7 points. And you can read in full the match report on vafa.com.au.
To win the premiership. These are all grand finals from last weekend.
Geelong. Brighton have done it again in Division 1 women. They've beaten Marceline, who are becoming the bridesmaids of the competition. They've lost about 3 or 4 now across the last 7 years, has Marceline. But the Tunners, 21-point winners in Division 1. Over in Division 2, comfortable win for Glen Ira McKinnon Senior Women. A 55-point victory there at Alston Park over Hampton Rovers. And Division 3 Women's saw Therry Penola beat Latrobe by 36 points.
And Premier B Women's Reserves also played their grand
Fitzroy,
final. Fitzroy won it by 10 goals over Westbourne. Noticed you left that one out there, Joey, the Fitzroy win.
Well,
Just
Paddy
making sure.
Paddy said, leave that one for me.
I just wanted to see you swim your way through that one.
I said, Paddy said you wanted to leave that one for yourself. And there's a grand final this weekend, James.
There is the Division 4 Women's Grand Final between St Kevin's and MCC at Alstonwick Park, 2:10 on Sunday. Get down there and have a look at that. Best of luck to both teams, St Kevin's and MCC, in the Division 4 Women's Granny.
And MCC have won a premiership in the last couple of years, so I imagine they'll do it again here, given St Kevin's have got success everywhere else. They don't need to win another one.
Where are you this weekend, K-Mac?
I'll be in Sydney on Saturday for the Swans and the Giants, and then I will be at Punt Road on Sunday for Richmond and GWS. But I will be keeping an eye on Caulfield and Kew, obviously, on the Saturday.
I'll see you up there on Saturday.
Is that where you're going to be?
Sydney and GWS. Looking forward to that one. Joey, where are you?
I'm heading down to GMHBA Stadium for Geelong and Southport in the VFL.
VFL semi-final on 7 VFL.
You got that pin for me? Still waiting.
It's a 7 debut, isn't it, Joey?
Yeah.
It is a 7 debut, yes.
Well done.
Conflicted
Congratulations.
with some Bernards and Old Melburnians. But thank you very much.
That's
Kate.
where I am, by the way,
I'm
James. Thanks for
very
asking.
much
Yes, I was getting to you.
Very much looking forward to it. We are done for this week on vafa.com.au. They're the previews of every game coming up this weekend. K-Mac, a massive thanks to you, and we'll hopefully catch up with you throughout the finals.
Thank you very much. Go Fields.